With President Trump visiting the Middle East, we here at the Andrew Klavan Show thought it would be interesting to compare Trump's Middle East trip with that of the last president, what's his name? Obama, right, sorry. It's hard to remember now that his legacy has been dumped like kitty litter into the deodorized trash bag of history. So where was I? Oh, right, comparing Trump's trip to President Pajamas. When President Osama traveled to the Middle East in June of 2009, he bowed so low to the rulers there, it looked as if he were engaging in some sort of submissive sexual act. Journalists trying to explain away the president's fawning servility in the presence of tyrants twisted themselves into complex positions that actually were submissive sexual acts. So the entire visit looked something like a daisy chain on a sadomasochistic porn site. Not that I've ever been on a sadomasochistic porn site, but I've heard about them. Conversely, at the start of Trump's trip, an image of the president several stories high was projected on the front of palaces where obscenely wealthy oligarchs live in garish luxury. Trump then left Mar-a-Lago and headed for Saudi Arabia. When President Bahama gave his famous speech in Cairo, Egypt, he apologized for American arrogance, saying, quote, "I am so sorry that we thoughtlessly built our World Trade Center in the exact spot where devout Muslims were trying to fly their hijacked jets." It was a typical example of how capitalist imperialism colonizes even the airspace that is being used by native cultures, unquote. The media praised Obama's speech for extending the open hand of friendship to people who are only trying to live in peace with all mankind, after they first slaughter the part of mankind they can't live in peace with. Donald Trump struck a somewhat different note in his speech, saying, quote, "Islamic extremists must be destroyed, and you better take care of this, because you don't want the task to fall to me. Because look in my eyes. I'm crazy. No, seriously, read the New York Times. I am completely out of my mind. And if you annoy me, I will kill each and every one of you and spread your radioactive ashes to the wind. No, I mean it. I'm nuts. Just look at me. Booga booga," unquote. The assembled Saudi leaders reacted by stampeding the exits, trampling each other underfoot in their desperation to escape the by now raving commander-in-chief of the world's largest nuclear arsenal. Finally, when Obama visited the Middle East, his worldly, sophisticated wife, Rochelle, whatever the hell her name was, wore a headscarf to demonstrate that we as Americans are open-minded enough to degrade ourselves in tribute to oppressive cultures that wish to destroy us. Melania Trump, on the other hand, wore nothing on her head but that amazingly silky cascade of golden brown hair, while showing off her mind-rattling figure and heartbreakingly shapely legs. And frankly, after watching that shameless display of profligate feminine freedom, I think it's possible we elected the wrong Trump. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray, it makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, directly back from his trip to the Middle East, Troll King Michael Knowles is here to discuss the craziness on campus as our students graduate to go out into the world and find out they know absolutely nothing about it after 4 years in college. And by the way, the one thing that nobody is talking about is how well the economy is doing right now. The stock market is doing great. Unemployment is down to almost nothing at this point, which means that if you run a business, you may soon want to be hiring people. So if you want your business to run like the Daily Wire, what you do is you stand outside the nearest strip joint in a raincoat, murmuring as people come out, "Want a job?" But if you would like your place to work well, you might want to try ZipRecruiter.com. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100-plus job sites with just one click. Then, their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. Well, that looks a lot different than here, I gotta say. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. Unlike the people who work here, these are people who will not work for drugs, so you may have to pay pay them, but they are much, much better. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free, which is really, really inexpensive. You just go to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. One more time, to try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That is even cheaper than a subscription to the Daily Wire, which is cheap in and of itself because it's only $8 lousy a month. So I think, Trump is now in Israel, but I still want to talk about it. One of the things that happens with Trump is everything goes by so fast that by the time you want to talk about one thing, it's new news. But I think it's worth taking a look back at this speech that he gave in Saudi Arabia. And the first thing I want to talk about is Melania. I have to say, I usually keep first ladies out of all my commentary because I think that being a wife is hard to begin with, and then you're stuck being the wife of the president, and everything you do is representative. But, when Donald Trump had that line, when somebody said something about Putin is a bad guy because he kills people, and Donald Trump said, well, we all kill people, it's everybody kills people. Like, I really went after Trump for that. I thought that was really, so far, was the low point of his presidency because it misunderstood the difference between them and us. What is the difference between them and us? No, we don't. Our journalists, as much as we may hate them, do not get defenestrated, right? They don't go out the window like Putin's enemies do. But then when Nancy Pelosi went to the Middle East and she wore a headscarf, she said the same thing. She said exactly the same thing. She said, oh, well, we only just recently let women do anything. It's nonsense. We are different. And as Melania is representative of the ladies of this country, and as representative of the ladies, she's representative of all of us, I'm really glad that she did not kowtow to, wear the headscarf. Obviously, that's a decision that probably goes right up the line. Everybody has to sign on to that decision. She looked marvelous. I thought she looked absolute, and I was proud to have her there. And this is true of everything about the Obama administration. Looking back, is we score Trump rightly when he said, "Oh well, we kill people too." But that was Obama's entire attitude. His entire attitude was, "Oh yes, we've all made mistakes, but now I'm here." Now I'm here. It was not that as America is an example to the world in human rights. It was, I am an example to the world in human rights, but the rest of us have all made mistakes. So when we look at Trump's speech, we have to think first about what he is walking into. You can't judge something unless you know what it's for, right? You can't say, oh, this wine, this corkscrew is a good or bad corkscrew until you know it's meant to pull the corks out of bottles, right? So what was Trump trying to do? And you have to remember that Obama left the Middle East in a shambles, and it was on him. I'm not saying that he could have brought the Middle East to peace. I'm not saying he could have solved all the problems, but he made everything worse. And how did he make it worse? He made it worse because, like the little ponce of a college professor he had a theory, and the theory had nothing to do with reality. And when he found out it had nothing to do with reality, he demanded that reality adhere to his theory. His theory was that all we had to do was make nice with Iran. And in order to make nice with Iran, that meant you had to leave our allies in the dust. Israel, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, you had to diss them because what we had to do is bring Iran into the process. Once we bring Iran into the process, once we negotiate this wonderful new nuclear deal, they're going to see that we all, we're all together in this. And the problem is that is complete narcissism. The idea that people don't act for their own reasons the people in the Middle East who want to kill us have perfectly good reasons in their mind why they want to kill us. It has nothing to do with how we behave, except for the fact that we don't kowtow to them. So Obama's idea was he was going to, turn his back on Israel, going to turn his back on Saudi Arabia, and basically no problem with Islam. Anybody who says anything is wrong with Islam is nuts. And he turned Iran into this raving nuclear-bound power that has everybody terrified. Now, the good side of that, of course, is that because everybody's terrified, suddenly Israel doesn't look so bad. Suddenly America doesn't look so bad. Suddenly they're thinking, maybe we ought to rearrange this. So Trump is going over there to remind people that he is going to redirect America's feet to the Sunni side of the street. I shouldn't have said that. That was terrible. But if you just look at his speech for a minute, what you see was that he was trying to reestablish, right? It wasn't, I don't think it was a great speech. It wasn't a tear down that wall speech. He was just trying to reestablish that we are going to be in alliance with Saudi Arabia. And everybody said all this stuff. I was watching the commentary on the right. The commentary on the left was, well, okay, it wasn't as bad as his campaigns. His campaign was all, I hate Muslims. But now at least he didn't say that, blah, 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 blah. But on the right, it was, well, why, he said it's not a clash of civilizations, but it is a clash of civilizations. It is a clash. But of course it's a clash of civilizations, and of course it's about religion. But what do we gain by going over and saying that? Because the thing about a clash of cultures is it's not going to end with one of our cultures disappearing. Okay, it's not going to end with Dresden in ruins and the Nazis surrendering, and all this stuff. That's not what's going to happen. You will know who wins this clash. I'll tell you how you'll know, okay? When rich guys in Silicon Valley start saying, I've become a Muslim recently. I really find that Islam is, I'm not a radical Islam. When guys like Mark Zuckerberg start becoming Muslim, you'll know we lost, okay? When women in Saudi Arabia can wear skirts, you'll know we've won, and that's how this works. So a lot of this has to do with persuasion. And what Trump did was he essentially sought to isolate the terrorists within the context of there being Islamic terrorists. He called them, he said he didn't, they said he didn't mean to say Islamic extremists. He meant to say Islamist extremists, but he said Islamic extremists. And this is, let me talk about how he talked about it. Play cut number 4.
That means honestly confronting the crisis of Islamic extremism and the Islamicists and Islamic terror of all kinds. We must stop what they're doing to inspire, because they do nothing to inspire but kill. And we are having a very profound effect if you look at what's happened recently. And it means standing together against the murder of innocent Muslims, the oppression of women, the persecution of Jews, and the slaughter of Christians. Religious leaders must make this absolutely clear. Barbarism will deliver you no glory. Piety to evil will bring you no dignity. If you choose the path of terror, your life will be empty, your life will be brief, and your soul will be fully condemned.
I'm sorry, but that is good stuff to me, because what he is saying is, they're funding in Saudi Arabia to keep the fat cats in power and keep the people quiet. They funded these Wahhabi mosques that preach this nonsense to people. And he is saying, no, you have got to stop. You've got to start preaching that this is not part of our religion. To go over there, to want him to go over there and say, we have to wipe Islam off the face of the earth, it's just not realistic. It's silly. But he did isolate that this was Islam extremists. He essentially said, this is a problem in the house of Islam. Now, I've always said there are two possibilities of that Islamic extremism is either a natural outgrowth from Islam itself, or it's a cancer on Islam. It's one of the other. I'd like to hear it debated by experts. My instinct is, because every Islamic country is oppressive, every single one tends toward tyranny. My instinct is that it may in fact be a natural outgrowth out of the Quran, but I won't say it. I think there's still an open question. I'd like to hear it debated. That's my instinct. But I don't want him to go over and say that. I don't think that accomplishes what he needs to accomplish. I think he needs to reestablish our relationship with Saudi Arabia, that we're going to have to get together and work on this, and we expect to see this from him. Trump is a natural isolationist. He wants to stay out of foreign wars, which is an old conservative principle, the way conservatives used to be before neoconservatism. And I think he is willing to stay with that as long as that's a realistic thing. I want to talk a little bit more about this, but first, I want to talk about the lousy way you're dressed. I mean, look at yourself. But put your chin on your chest and look down at yourself, especially if you're a guy. This is one of the things I have noticed in this office, I have to say, but I've noticed, actually a lot of my friends have said this, is that women come to work and they dress. They look nice. They know that that you are judged on the way you look. And guys, especially guys just out of college, it's not true as they get a little older, but guys just out of college come in with, the sneakers and the hoodies and all this stuff. And, I get it. We don't wear suits and ties anymore, but you look better in a suit. You look better in a suit, and you look better if the suit is tailored to you. And that is why you might want to check out Indochino Custom Menswear, because this is a way, especially if you're starting out, but for anybody, this is a way you can get bespoke suits measured exactly for you at a lesser price, right? It makes it easy to do it. You go online, you have your spouse measure you, get your measurements and send them the measurements, or you can go into your local shop. That's what I did. I went into a local shop that they have in Beverly Hills. It's just a small place, and you go in and they do all the measurements they want, and then they have them on file, so all you have to do is go on the website and order what you want, and you get to pick everything. You get to completely construct, even your shirt, you get to construct what kind of collar you want. Do you want a pocket? Do you want, what kind of cuffs do you want? And you can really customize the whole thing, and it is made directly for you. You will look so much better than you look right now because, let's face it, look at you. I can see you from here, and it's disgusting. This week, my listeners can get any premium Indochino suit for just $379. If you know anything about buying clothes, you know that is an amazing price. You go to Indochino.com and enter Klavan at checkout. That's Klavan. And this is 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit, and the shipping is free. Indochino.com. The promo code is Klavan, Klavan, for any premium suit for just $379 and free shipping. It's an incredible deal for a suit that will fit you better than anything off the rack ever could. You'll look a lot better. So let's just finish this up, and then we will get to Michael Knowles. We got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, but come on over to thedailywire.com, and while you're there, subscribe for a lousy $8 a month, and then you can watch the whole thing there.